What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another Battlefield 6 gun guide. In today's episode, we're going to be diving deep into the stats of the UMG-40 SMG, and toward the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing a couple excellent attachment combinations for you to try out. And starting it off, as always, let's have a look at the raw power of this gun. And our rate of fire is the slowest in the SMG category at 635 rounds per minute, and it's going to be a 4 to 7 shot kill depending on your range. And what this means is, up close, our time to kill isn't very good for an SMG up close, at least, at 283 milliseconds. It's not like this is a totally unusable time to kill, it just is on the slow side for an SMG. And then beyond that, we've still got a worse than average time to kill at all ranges with this gun. So that's definitely not an area where this gun excels. However, one key area that really makes this stand out above the rest of the SMGs is its headshot potential, particularly with the synthetic ammo. With this, it's the only SMG where in multiple damage ranges, you only need one headshot mixed in with body shots to reduce the number of shots to kill if you're using that synthetic ammo, and this takes place between 9.5 and 37.5 meters, which, at least in my experience on these maps, it's quite easy to keep yourself within that particular range window. It's easy to avoid the very close range gunfights, and it's easy to make sure you're not taking crazy long gunfights as well. But even if you do find yourself outside of that range window, just having to mix 2 headshots in is also not too bad when you consider the accuracy of this gun, which we will be looking at recoil and spread in just a little bit. But before we do that, let's have a look at the range comparison, and unsurprisingly, we have standard range drop-off points for an SMG with this gun. But it is worth noting, when you compare it to all of the other SMGs that start with a 4-shot kill in their maximum damage range, first off, it doesn't drop to a 7-shot kill beyond 37.5 meters, it maintains a 6-shot kill potential. And then beyond 75 meters, it maintains a 7-shot kill potential rather than an 8-shot kill. In saying that though, since it has the slowest rate of fire by a notable margin, it's still killing slower than average in both of those ranges. As for our velocity value, this is a little bit better than average for an SMG at 488 meters per second, so it definitely handles itself well out to mid-ranges at the very least. And when it comes to hipfire, we do have a standard hipfire spread for an SMG, and that means the hipfire spread is quite tight, and therefore hipfiring in close range engagements is perfectly viable, but this isn't the type of gun where I would typically go like all in on hipfiring, just due to its relatively slow time to kill potential in close range engagements, and it's also just not very forgiving for any missed shots due to that slower fire rate, so any additional shot to kill is really going to make your time to kill skyrocket compared to a faster firing SMG. Now, as promised, let's take a look at recoil and spread, and as you can see here, this gun is very accurate. There's not a whole lot of climb to this. In fact, I would say it's very comparable to the SL9 when it comes to the total amount of climb throughout a magazine. But unlike the SL9, it does have a tendency to drift a little bit to the right as you're firing, so a little bit of horizontal recoil to deal with there, but that is more than manageable. It's not like an extreme amount of horizontal recoil. And then also, when it comes to spread, there's not a whole lot of spread there either. Obviously, as you continue to hold down the trigger, some spread will be introduced, but you can take care of that with attachments if you choose. So in my eyes, this is another big strength of this gun, and it pairs very well with its excellent headshot potential when using the right attachments. Now after that, taking a look at our handling stats, this gun is just standard for an SMG in all areas. It's aimed out sight, sprint out time, it's got a standard magazine capacity, reload time is very standard for an SMG as well. There's just nothing interesting about this gun when it comes to handling, whether in the positive or negative direction. And it's the same thing, of course, with our mobility stats. It's just the same as all of the other SMGs in the game. And that wraps it up for all of the base stats as they apply to multiplayer, but taking a look at REDSEC here, against 2 armor plates, the UMG-40 is going to be an 8 to 13 shot kill, giving us a worse than average time to kill across the board. It'll kill in 661 milliseconds up close and 1134 milliseconds at long ranges. But in saying that, it's not all about time to kill, and one thing this gun really has going for it is its accuracy and that headshot potential if you're using the ammunition that helps with headshots. So I definitely wouldn't write this gun off entirely for REDSEC, but I also wouldn't be using it as like my very close range option if I've got a solid mid to long range gun to pair with it. And with all of that covered, we can finally move into some excellent attachment combinations to try out. And the first one I've got for you guys really leans into the strengths of this gun. This is my accuracy / headshot build. Now with it, we're using the Mini Flex optic. I just really like that optic on SMGs especially. Even though this allows us to stretch our range out quite nicely, I still like having that lower zoom optic. It just suits me really well. I've got the standard suppressor on here to keep us off the radar and prevent that Dorito from popping up over our head. For my barrel, I'm using the heavy extended barrel, which allows us to handle long ranges more effectively due to the increased muzzle velocity, and also if we're holding down the trigger a little bit, it's just not going to spread out on us nearly as much due to the heavy part of that barrel. Then for our underbarrel, I'm using the rib vertical. This one's going to help keep that recoil even more in check. Not that it's necessary on this gun, but it definitely helps keep this thing practically pinpoint accurate. For our magazine, I've got the 30 round fast mag. And then finally, the key with this is the synthetic ammo, which is unfortunately a very late unlock. But once you get it, it really elevates this gun because, as I said, between 9.5 and 37.5 meters, with this ammo, you just need to mix one single headshot in to reduce the number of shots to kill. And that now allows you to excel in the time to kill department. And that's not even mentioning all the situations where if you're hitting like pure headshots, you can really cut down on that time to kill potential even more. So with this, I would definitely treat it as more of a mid-range SMG. I generally want to try to avoid very close range engagements, but in saying that, I'm also not trying to like hang back and challenge people across the map too often. You've got to try to find that balance somewhere in the middle there and just try to hit those headshots whenever possible. And while that one's great and it really squeezes the most out of this gun, in my opinion at least, I also wanted to share a close range build just because this suits my playstyle better, even though it doesn't suit this gun as well as many of the other SMGs out there. Like if I am going for really close range engagements, I'd probably just rather be using a different SMG. But I still want to provide the option for you here, and it's still viable to use this. So with it, I'm actually using the iron sight, and this gun has two iron sight options. I'm using the more open iron sight. I think that one's great on this gun. It's one of the strengths of this gun as well. A minor strength, but a strength nonetheless. Then for our laser, I'm using the 50 milliwatt blue laser to help with hipfire spread, but more importantly, our aim down sight spread when moving, and that's going to be combined with the light barrel, which also helps in that area quite nicely. We've also got the CQB suppressor on here to also help with that hipfire spread, or at least allow us to be suppressed without our hipfire spread getting any worse. I then have the 30 round mag on here, and then I'm using hollow point ammo, primarily because I just feel like in order to get the most out of this gun, you've got to be getting those headshots. And while hollow point obviously isn't as good as synthetic, it's still going to be at least better than the base version of this gun. And so when possible, I'm still going to try to hit headshots with this, but I'm going to be a little bit less picky about it in the close range engagements, because usually in those situations, you don't really have the time to be specifically aiming for the head, and you just got to get your shots on target as quickly as possible. And with this build, we've got very little spread while moving. That allows us to be hyper aggressive with it. We can hip fire if needed, and again, those headshots are still going to be quite helpful for us. And there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the UMG-40, and when it comes to my thoughts on this gun, it's far from my favorite SMG in the game, but I am glad that I discovered that it does have some unique power at least, and that is with those headshots when using the headshot ammo types. If you can leverage that properly, this gun is quite great. If not, I just consider this to be a slightly below average SMG that's still very usable, but just often not your best choice in a given situation. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts on the UMG-40, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this gun in those comments down below. And if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.